Good morning. So let's get rid of this and let's just jump right into it. Good morning. Good morning, Stefan. Good morning, Utu. Let's just go. Let's get right into it. Okay, Matthew, let's look at coin. Let's just start. Let's rip the Band-Aid off. Coffee, ready to go. Face the world. So let's just get into what's going on here. So I'm not really a fan of this company. I mean, that's not really telling you a lot, but see this 208 level, you keep holding it over and over again. And that is continuing. It's not changing. So morning, Nicholas. So I like how you're holding this level. To me, you really got to get above 250 and stay above 250. And that's really been the crux of the problem. So you have all this still of all these people that are in here, right? But here, look at this. Let me throw this indicators out for a moment. And let me just get rid of these moving averages because they're not really relevant as we start flatlining here. But what is relevant to me is this purple line. See this purple line? That's point of control. Usually when you break that, you get some kind of pop up. You had one here, you had one here, you had one here. You haven't had one yet. And it might be because of how you closed. So you might be due for some kind of test of 250, but you're really, you're really looking for a quick trade here. This has a lot of work to do before it can get out of its own way. And we can look at coin very quickly on the hourly because you have more data, right? And we can get rid of everything that's going on here. And you can just kind of see where you're at on the hourly, right? So you're not really knocking the cover off the ball here as far as movement and what's going on. Like you obviously can't go back as far, but here's your range on your hourly chart. So, we hit hourly VWAP yesterday and bounced right off of it. So just consider that. There could be a trade there. Are you still watching? Yeah, I watch it every single day. Jeremy, every day I'm watching that. I really like the stock and I really like the company. Let's get into this here. So I really like what I see here. So you're breaking this, you broke through the level and now you're trying to pop over this. But this point of control has me concerned, right? Like I thought I was over it when I bought it and I was doing fine with it. And that's why I got into it. But, we seem to be stuck here. Right near the top of this red bar. We tried to break over point of control here. We got up to it here. We rejected over here. We couldn't get through it. And this is where I bought. This is my first entry. I actually lost money on this trade. Then this one, it looks like we're finally going to go. And then what's it do? Right. Comes down, tries to get through again. Can't get through. See that point of control? I mean, that point of control is everything. So, and it's respecting more than anything else. If you really look at what it's doing, it's respecting the VWAP. So that's why I'm trying to get people to pay attention a little bit to volume by price. There's some really good nuggets in there. You can kind of see what's going on. You see how you undercut VWAP here, and now you're bounced into it. Now you're in this wedge, but you have to get through this. You really got to get through that area. So let's see what happens. But yeah, Jeremy, I am watching it. Hey, Sandy, Etsy. Give me 1 second. Let's see here. All right. So here's your VWAP line, right? Let's get going here. So here's your VWAP line. You try to break through here, you're unable. You try again here, you're unable. What are we unable to do right now? Break through it. Now, you would look at this and think it's ready, right? Because you have this little trend line right here. But really what you need for that to be completely executable is to get through that wick. Hold on, let's move that up a little bit because that's just not right. That should get you right to here. Right. And let's get rid of this now. So we see this line, right? We're going to pull this line out and we're going to dig into this now. And we're going to slide this over so we can see the top. So you can see what I'm looking at, okay? And look at this level, right? You just happen to open on it one time as well. So there's something about this level that's giving us an issue, this 258 level. And I would want to get through that level before I get involved, because that would also mean that the wedge is broken. I'm going to get a higher high. I'm going to get through this, and that's going to get me a shot at this 212 again, which has just really been since where we sold down on this, Sandy. And it gets me above the VWAP, which is really where I want to be. But, you know, this trend line has been obviously broken, and it's been respected. You know, you can actually see how it came down here and almost ran to it. But for time's sake, let's just move it to here, right? And we can use the top of this. It's fine. Okay. And you can kind of see where I'm going with this. So while you have a trend line here, if you break this level, by the time you get here, you're going to break both. So why wouldn't I just wait for that to happen? That's how I would play Etsy, Sandy. I'd wait for that. Hey, Donnie, I saw your request. I'll definitely get to it. On LEGN, I saw it this morning. I'm just trying to get through everything. So let's just go into Apple. So here's really what's going on. Okay, you rally up, you pull back, and you're sitting right on this level. You're holding this level. Now, I just want to point this out. Earnings are coming. I feel like I'm saying winter is coming, but for those Game of Thrones fans. But what is interesting is I am holding this line. Now, this quarter that comes out, seasonally, this is the worst quarter for Apple, right? And it's just because it's, you know, people buy the iPhones more during Christmas. So you have the spike in the third quarter, and you have it in the fourth quarter, which is really the January is really their big number. So during the summer doldrums, for whatever reason, you don't see it. Now, Apple came in yesterday because they're talking about making the cheaper phone 5G. I really don't have a major issue with that. I don't see why anybody would. But it was a reason to sell. I like it, and it's holding in here, but for me, I really only see, 10 points of upside to this. So this is not really a long-term trade for me here. We did this in the newsletter down here where it just so happened to flip, this point of control and run. But I'm not chasing it here. I would wait for earnings. So let's do, hey, Mohammed, let's do APPS. So, yeah, I mean, I know people are trying to get involved with this. Let's just do this for a moment. Let's get rid of all these horizontal lines and let's get rid of all the events. So here's really what transpired, right? You can actually draw it from here, right? Let's just go through this. So we broke, and then within 3 to 5 days, I'd like to see it in 5, but within 3 to 5 days, we got back over it, okay? So then you start forming this trend lines up here, and you have this one up here. Then you break it again, right? And then the company issues a statement trying to explain exactly what happened, but the stock comes in. You pull back the point of control, but the bottom line is this red bar is still in control, but that's 15 points away, right? But what you could do is start looking and realizing that this level, which is part of that red bar, is really your resistance, right? See how you broke it here, and that was the end of it. See how you tried to close above it here and couldn't. See how you tried to close above it here and you couldn't, right? Then now you start playing with point of control. So to me, I wouldn't buy this until I get a close above 65.90, right? And then I would probably use a really tight stop because I'm really looking for this just to get to 71, right, and get above VWAP first. And then you're going to have to work your way up and get through 77 and, right, 83. I mean, you see where I'm going with this. So you have a lot of issues here. But if I wanted to be in this, which I know people do, that's how I would play it. I wouldn't touch this to 65.90. So I hope that's helpful, Mohammed. Okay. LEGN, let's do it. So you're really just a monster today, right? Like, look, and you just, oh, that looks like yesterday. It doesn't look like a lot's transpired here. To me, this is very hard to play. And the reason for that, the reason I'm saying that is this. Here's 42. Okay. So this 42 level you broke out. That was your play on this. Okay. I don't have any position in this. This is not one I was looking at. It's a biotech company. I'm not sure if a news event hit and that's what's driving it. Donnie, if you have more info on what's actually driving it, just type it in so I can, expand on what I'm saying a little bit, and maybe how to play it or if we're waiting for an event. But you see, I mean, you're doing amazing, right? And every single bar now is closing at the high. So that's really what you want to see. It just gets harder to play because you're off this level, right? So you can't really use a 5-point stop, can you? I mean, it's almost 6 at this point. So you're going to have to start using shorter time frame charts to trade it. And I'm not saying not trade it. Just look at the weekly to see if I'm missing anything. Yeah, I mean, this is pretty impressive stuff, right? You got right above the high of that. You close here on the week. That's a huge breakout. And look where your volume is. And you still have 2 more days left, right, on your weekly. So that's very impressive. I'm just a little too high for me off that level. So I'd probably use like a 15-minute, maybe even an hourly chart to try and find a way into that with some kind of pattern. CROX. Yeah, that's on my short list today. I mean, again, I always make fun. I'm like, I don't know who's buying these things. I don't see anybody in them. But here was your trend line, right? And it's just, again, it's earnings. And then it bases, and then it goes higher, right? And now we're higher. What really seems to happen is you need to be in it for earnings. And that seems like the majority of the move. But this obviously went a little higher. Now that you're at this 119 level, it just looks like we could just keep on pushing. And maybe that's the case. Maybe that's exactly what happens here. So the fact that you are breaking out like this is very interesting to me. It's just a clear breakout of this trend line. And usually this means it goes parabolic. This is exactly, if we get rid of all these indicators and we just drill this down, this is exactly what happened last time, right? You can draw this one here and leave that in. And then you can also just draw this one right here, right? Either way that you look at it, even if you look at both, right? You broke it. No matter how you play that, it's broken, right? So you broke it to the upside and you consolidated. What are you doing again? Breaking it to the upside and consolidating. So that's probably what happens here. It probably consolidates and then pushes higher. But it's just, they're just crushing on every front on earnings. So I get the interest. It's just how do you play it? To me, it's a huge overgap. I have to wait for that to pull back. I really have to wait for this to pull back, come down, and then try to find a way in. That's usually how I would play something like that. So let's take a look at this. Stefan, what do I think of marijuana stocks such as SNDL? SNDL I really don't play with because it's too small, but we can cover it. So this is just too small to really get involved for me. But you see how you rise, sell, right? I mean, this is just people just getting out of it. So I wouldn't be playing with this one. Now, this one acts the best of all of them. There's no pot stock that actually has this kind of relative strength. So I'm not entirely sure why that is, but let's throw the indicators in. And you can just see all the minutia that's right in this space, right? You have this upper trend line. You have this lower trend line you just bounced off of. You're sitting at the 200-day, the 5 and the 8. Click these off and let's get rid of the events. And really what you're seeing is you're just seeing a major downtrend here. So it's not something where I would be rushing into here. I do like this. I do like how we broke this. But again, it's not something that I think that you need to be rushing into here. So I would just hold off a little bit on it. DQ, yeah, you're getting some love this morning, Raphael. I saw that. I try to avoid these kinds of companies, but this is on fire and it's acting exceptionally well. I mean, that's a clear breakout of that 83.19 level that I've had in here. And hold on one second. But that's a clear breakout of that level. So I expect that to push higher. And let's see how that plays out here. But I mean, I have a hard time with the name, frankly. But you're doing everything right. Like, you're breaking these levels. You're going to open above this. Like, if you open above that, that's huge. If you can do that, right? I mean, that's a really big resistance level. And see how your volume profile, it just goes away. It's like a vacuum up here. It could just run. It really could. It could just keep going. It's too much for me to chase it. If you're in, congratulations. I don't know if there was an event now, but I don't know why the move. You're seeing a lot of some of the Chinese names move today as well, but I wouldn't chase it, but it does look great. Twilio, sure. And let's just get to Twilio. Okay. So let's throw this up here. Okay. I really like the name. I think you're setting up for a breakout. And I like how you've been consolidating and basing. We can almost go back as far and say this base has been going on since back here. I mean, you can almost make an argument this has been basing for a year since it broke out, right? And you've had your ups, right, and your downs, but it's really like one big base. It has not changed. And what it's doing now is you see these swings, how then we got wild. Now what's happening? Look how tight you're getting. So let's get rid of some of this stuff. Let's expand these indicators and let's get rid of the 5 and the 8 until we need them, just to clean this up a little bit. I tried to make this clearer so that people can see this volume by price. It seems to be working. So let's just throw this up here. Now, you run to this 405, you bounce back down to this VWAP and point of control. What happens? You hold, you get above the 21-day. There's your test, right? There's your break. There's your test of support. Now you're going to go through here. And look how many times you've hit this level, right? Bonk, bonk. So I'm getting ready to do it again, 405.35. Getting through that is very interesting. One thing that I'm not crazy about is just, where's my volume? Right. And I mean, people say, oh, it's seasonal. I don't really care. That's why the line's here. And I'm constantly below even the seasonality. And that is somewhat concerning. You also have to be careful you're buying in the earnings. And earnings can go one of two ways. Even if it's good, it can go down. Right. Even if the earnings are good, we know what can happen. We've seen it. We've seen it go down on great earnings here. Right? You've seen it top out on earnings here, right? So here, right? Here. And they're all great earnings. They just sell down. So just be careful. Good morning, Bo. MDB. You got it. So see this break? You got to get through that 21 and you have to get through this. Okay, I have a really hard time buying stocks that are below point of control as a general rule. And the reason that I say that is, why do I want to take the risk of owning something, right, lower than where the majority of people are in, knowing that that's going to create huge supply when I get up there? And if you look at that area, just to kind of put it in perspective, look what happens when you got to this area, right? Collapses. Pops its head over, can't close there. High is point of control. So you can see that that level is being respected. So I really wouldn't have an interest in this until I got over 370 and the 21-day, which obviously are going to be, together when that happens. But that's what I would be looking for, like that 370 level. You're welcome, Sandy, anytime. So I don't know if you're saying, is that GM or good morning? Good morning. I'm going to go with. Yeah, Larry, I think that this is really where you need to be buying this. If you're like an investor and you're just trying to leg into something, I mean, this is really where you have to be buying the name. This is not a breakout stock. It doesn't really do that. I mean, it usually runs up. They do some kind of wacky secondary like they did here. It crushes you. Right. I mean, remember the secondary and then it just crushed us. So now you just kind of see it falling down. Now, if you look at these events, here was earnings. and they were a disaster and the stock sold down. But it's a growing company. So earnings are always a disaster at first. This thing's a cash cow. I mean, it really is a cash cow. And it's only going to get bigger, and states are only going to keep adding to it. Like you have to think about it this way, right? No state is going to take it away and say, we're not doing this anymore, right? Even I just don't see that. Even when New York looked at trying to do it themselves to generate income, they wound up going, well, we're just going to pick vendors because they realized how hard it is. So from a long-term perspective, the business model is not going away. Now, that doesn't tell you where the stock's going. So what you have to do is kind of understand that and say, well, I at least need something technical to look at, right? So you have this. So I mean, I personally don't like to buy stuff that's like this because I could just keep trending down. There's no reason for that. Based upon this chart, I couldn't go to 30. Now, saying that, you see how you have this wick where, I guess it was Hindenburg. I mean, they're just a disaster. Came out and issued another report, knocking it down, right? That was the low. Then it runs up. See how you undercut that level, right? And you have buyers there, right? So now you have your bottom in. Get above this, and I'd have an interest. Get above this, and I'd really have an interest. Okay, because that's really where you need to buy this. You need to buy this when it's beaten down. And then you can start trying to get through these levels, 56, and working your way back up. So that's how I would play it, Larry. XLE, let's take a look at XLE. So you can see what's going on with, right, this breakdown and then the bounce. I mean, I don't think you're getting anything more than a short-term bounce here. I really don't. You're below point of control. You're below your 21, your 50. I've been avoiding the names. I mean, things that I've been avoiding, frankly, have been financials, energy, small cap names. So I just think that, it's going to wind up going back into tech and biotech is really what I'm leaning towards growth wise. And, not to go off on a segment, but like you can kind of see how the IWM is having a hard time with this point of control on with this postmark pre-data in. But here's regular data, and you can kind of see where you're at with that point of control. And you're having a tough time here this morning, right? And this is not having a tough time this morning. So I would just be cautious bottom fishing on some of this stuff. This index since the election, and I'm not making this political, I'm just making a statement. And I just want to caveat on that. So like, look, right, where was the peak here? Okay, what was that move? Hold on. Let's see if I can make that clear somehow. There you go. 98%. Okay. So you see where I'm going with this. Like for this to pull back is not a big deal. It could retrace half and still be up 50% from the trough. So I wouldn't chase it. I really wouldn't. Amazon, let's take a look at. Hi, Ethan. So Amazon, let's just get into. So I like that you undercut this and now you're trying to get back over it, right? I like that you're trying to do the 21 day. To me, this red bar is still in charge. So until I get above 36, 46.06, I have zero interest in this. And that's the level that I'll be watching today. I'll be watching that level and making sure I get over that and then get over these levels. That's what I'm looking for today. And we'll see how that plays out. Right? You want to see here and here, but you have a lot of work to do now. There's a lot of red in here you have to get through. I think he got a little goodwill on, I'm going to space, and I guess that went well. I didn't even look at the video yet. I've been so busy. But I don't know that you have to chase this here. I mean, I don't know what your big carry is, right? You're coming into earnings. I personally don't think it's going to be that stellar considering what's going on, and you're in the middle of the quarter of their busy time. So, let's see what happens with it, but I don't think it's going to be anything spectacular. I do not. Just the volume and push higher. Yeah. Okay. So we're talking about this LEGN. So the thing about that LEGN, if there's nothing else going on and we're just volume and we're pushing higher, I'd be cautious. But it looks to me like I'd want to know the story, right? Because if it's a biotech company and I'm stepping into a binary event, I want to know that I'm stepping into a binary event. So I know on Wednesday when it's up 20 points or down 20 points, I know why. So I could protect myself. So I'd want to know more before I jump in. AVPT. I'm going to start going through these a little faster so I can get to everybody before the end. So you undercut here, right? And we can just pull this all the way back. So you undercut this, right? Here, boom. Tries to get over the 200, can't. Back down over the 50, over the 21. My volume is increasing, even though you can hardly see that. Let me throw in this relative volume, and what that'll do is give us a better picture. That does not give us a better picture. It's very thin. You got to watch this 200 level because you had a problem with it. So I wouldn't even buy it now until I'm above this. I wouldn't even touch it until I'm above that. So if you want to play it, you can, but I'd be waiting for that level before I'd even consider starting a position. And then you're going to run right in the VWAP, which was an issue before, right? And then you have point of control up here. So you have issue after issue after issue. So if you're willing to play this in dollar increments and see how it does on those levels I just pointed out, that's for you. It's not something I would do. AMC has just been, really just doing AMC kind of stuff and playing with people. To me, I looked at this. I actually looked at shorting it at the end of the day, but then the puts were too expensive, and I figured I'd just do it this morning. This is a pretty textbook, right? Like, I actually bought this the other day, yesterday, and made a point on it, or point and a half. But I really think you have to look at this, right? Like yesterday, you got right up to what? 46 and a half. And then what happened? This pulls back. Okay. And then when it pulls back, it doesn't get to the 21 day, doesn't get to this level, right? And you're not challenging this fib level. That shows weakness. And now I have an inverted hammer, right? And that I'm closing on the low of the hammer, and I'm right near this 50 day. So slicing this, right? Breaking a lower low from this bar technically gets you at what? An evening star pattern. What does that do? That gets me to this level, right? Just to start, it gets me to back here, 35. So there may be a trade here today on the short side. And there might be someone that wants to buy those, July 23rd, 40 puts for $1.60. For me, they were just too expensive. So I just didn't do it. Oh, let me close that. So, and we'll just keep going. Hey, Nad. So let's do DDD, and we'll just keep going. So here's your VWAP. Here's your point of control. You're doing everything right? What concerns me about it is that I just have to get over, like here, let me show you this, right? Okay. So let's get rid of the point of volume by price and clean that stuff up. And let's drop this down for a moment. See what I'm dealing with on DDD? See these issues? I have to get above the 8 day before I even consider it. I like this stock a lot. I mean, their earnings have been stellar, and more. I wasn't aware of this, but more and more aerospace people are using this 3D printing technology, and I think that's going to continue here. I don't think that's going to stop. But we have to trade price. I like how you're holding the 200 day. The last time you held the 200 day here, this was a beautiful trade, right, all the way up. So I think you're getting another shot at that trade. And you're going to have to just see how that goes. But I would at least want to be above the 8 day, and then using that as a guide, and then get me to that 50, and then working my way up. So, but you got to get above that 8 day before you even start looking at that, Nad. AGIO. Let's take a look. AGIO. All right, I got 5 minutes left here, guys and girls. I wouldn't touch this. So see how these are all rolling? So you are trending. The trend's changed, and now you're coming down. And then on top of that, you essentially have a what, right? Opened at the high, closed at the low. The body of this bar encompassed the long-legged doji, essentially, except for this little part. So you basically have a bearish engulfing pattern. I don't want to play with this. And then on top of that, and I'll just do this one. I think you have a longer one down here, but for time's sake, I'll just do this one. This is telling you you're probably testing this 52 level, right? That's how it looks like to me. So, AMEH. No, I mean, look, what happened? Someone was kind enough to send me the Hindenburg report, and they did exactly what they do to people. They just wreck them. And this is what happens. You know, you get people in on something that's just not factually based, and then it just takes off. And that's exactly what's transpired here. So, you know, you really have to watch here as to what's shaking. For me, it's definitely something that I would be looking at, you know, as far as a short-term trade, because you have people that are really stuck now that they're short. He issued a report on it. It came all the way down on the report. This is the day of the report, I believe. And then just wham, you know, so now people are, you know, down 50 points if they listened. I guess you can kind of get what I think of that. So, but you have to use short-term charts now. 3 minutes left. CRSR. Hey, Marty. So, I mean, people love the name. I would not go near this. I don't really even need anything else. I mean, I can throw them in, but I would not touch this. I would not go near this. Just avoid it. I mean, it's got so much work to do. Why do I want to fight this for $2? And I know everybody loves it and everybody buys their stuff, but it's just not something that I would go near. AMC, we covered. Hey, Aaron. So CROX, I covered already. I'll just do it real quick so you don't have to go rewind and take a look. I'll just do it very, very quickly. So what you're seeing is you see these breaks. This was earnings, right? This was an earnings event. And if you want to go back, you can take a look. I go into more detail. But see this break and how you get over this? That's what you have to watch. Like, this is what you want to see. But you're already coming down this morning, so you're going to have to watch that, right? You're already starting to drop this morning. Like, you were already up to here, so you're already trading down. We could probably look at that now and give it a little bit of time. Now we've given it some time. You see, like, you really can't go near this. And if you're going to try and buy this today, you have to realize that you need to look at the pre-market data at that 137 level. So, but I go into greater detail there. NVIDIA, hey, let's do it. Let's do it, yo, Chris. So I'm waiting for my sell-off and my pullback to buy it. Apparently, I'm the only one waiting. Everybody else is just buying it. So I have this pseudo trend line right here, right? Because, you know, I'm trying to figure it out. This 198 level is very important to me. The top of this bar is important to me, which gets it back over that 800 level. So this is not really a pattern that I'm comfortable buying. I know people bought it on the dip and they've done exceptionally well. Congratulations, but it's just not my kind of trade. I want the meat. I'm not really interested in you know, the little bit, the scraps. So I'm looking to try to make you know, the first time we traded this, we made 100 points on it. That's what I'm looking for. So I'm waiting to see if we break this level and push. If that happens, I may have an interest in it. I think it looks great. I think it's acting exceptional. All right, so let's do Sophie. People love this name. And then I'm going to have to wrap this up. So, okay. Yeah, you see how you're holding this line? You just have to watch that. You really just have to watch that. So I'm not a buyer of this. I mean, I'm trying to find something positive. You have a 5 and you're 8 here and you have a volume spike. I couldn't even have follow through after one day. It's very similar to what happened here. I would be very cautious. And if I broke this line and broke this low right here, I just would get out of it. You know, it's just not acting well at all. So XAIR. Wow. I mean, that's a move. Is that just this morning? Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you what I would be looking at this morning. If I was to play this, you got to watch the top of this. You get through 9:30 and you're going to see all the Yahoos jump back in this and just push it higher and think they're getting the next, you know, one that's going to 20. And maybe they are getting that. But then what you have to do is just use this, these levels. Let's get rid of these events. That's annoying. But you have to use these levels, right? Because they will matter. People will look at these levels. See this 10 level right here, how you tried to get through it before on the weekly? We can get rid of these indicators. And you can kind of see where I'm going with this, right? 10 is going to be an issue. 1250 is going to be an issue. But it could push. And I would look for that 930 level. So let's just go. Hey, Tom. Yeah, you're welcome, Kev. What time is it? All right, I got to go here. Let me just do one more. I'm going to just do, let me just do the RBLX, because you know why? Because the majority of people are going to want to see that one. And then I have to go here. I got 9 minutes before the market opens. That's a weekly. That's going to do absolutely nothing for me. So I know people are looking at this name. I'm looking at it too. See this trend line? I got to get through this trend line, whether you draw that trend line how I drew it or you draw it here. I don't really care. You have to get through it, right? And you have 83, 84. Now watch this, because this is actually worth saying. Okay. I'm still above point of control and I'm sitting on VWAP. It's not the worst spot to be, but with all that said, I still, with this line down here, have a bear flag. So I need to at least get above this 83, 84 level before I'd be considering it. All right, I have to go, everyone. Have a great day.